Linux Out Loud is firing up our mic, connecting those headphones as we prepare to get rowdy. I'm Matt, and I'm joined by my fellow co-hosts, Bill and Wendy. We are three friends sitting around a virtual table talking Linux, open source, technology, gaming, and everything in between. We keep the banner friendly conversation, well, somewhat on topic, and have fun doing it. This week, we're spouting off about whatever comes to mind. Let's get into episode 107. So, what is going on, guys? How have you folks been?
I've been doing really well. It's spring is hopefully coming soon. The snow and ice are melting off of my yard, which means that my pack of dogs is able to mostly run free. And I say mostly because when you have more dogs, you're going to have more problems.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, we found out that my youngest dog, who's about 2 years old, needed to have her ACL repaired. And
Ouch.
For a dog of her size, she's about 60 pounds and as active as she is, this means a 16 weeks of recovery.
Wow.
At the time of this recording, we're into week 4, and today she got the staples out of her leg. And we will be having to take her down to aqua therapy down in another part of our state, probably at least once a week for quite a while to kind of get that strength back in her leg as she learns how to weight bear on it again. And other than that, we got good news. She's recovering well. Everything looks good and all is well. In my other spare time, what little I have, I've been getting together with friends virtually to play some Magic the Gathering, which is a game I've been playing since I was a kid. And we're trying to arrange an in-person meeting. And I counted back, and the last time I actually had people over for a Magic draft was in 2018. I think the pandemic has forced us once again to forget how long time really is.
Yeah, that's been a while. Holy cow.
So that'll be a fun guys weekend here when that happens. But Wendy, I understand that you too are trying to revitalize your social connections a bit.
Yes, absolutely. So we went to the Park City qualifier, and Utah State FTC was the week afterwards. And me and my one commenter were like, it would be a ton of fun if we left all the kids behind, drove 7 hours to go volunteer for kids without our kids. So that's what we ended up doing this weekend. We picked up her daughter along the way because she was head ref, and we brought another friend along with us. And so it's been a really fun experience. The fact that I did judging at the Park City qualifier, I was able to judge at the Utah State, which is it's pretty nice. It's different to see the process from the other side, between like being the mentor to being the one behind the scenes, watching the presentations, going and doing the pit judging, the conversations to have in the back of the room. And I had a lot of fun doing it. We had some stuff that came up, a medical emergency for one of the gals that was with us. So we didn't quite get to celebrate the way we had wanted to that Saturday night. It kind of put a different spin on the weekend, but overall it was nice. We did rent a vehicle. It was a Dodge Durango. So even though it was the most fuel efficient model, it still had some giddy up go. And one thing over like the multiple times recently driving through Utah, that the posted speed is too slow. If you're not doing at least 10 over the posted speed for the most part, especially when you're going through Salt Lake City, you're going way, way, way too slow. So learning how to drive in that area a little bit better. It was nice and smooth. Had a lot of fun that way. The drive was nice. So on the drive down, I only drove like the last hour and a half there. But then I ended up driving like the entire 7 hours home. We did stop at IKEA for like 2 hours. I didn't buy anything. The one gal was really impressed. I know. It's not that I didn't want to. There was some storage stuff that I really liked, but until I figure out a place to put it, it would just be another pile of crap. So I was like, I can refrain. I cannot buy anything while we were here. But yeah, it was fun. It was a nice little getaway for the weekend overall. And I think that was like my first one in like 20 years. So yeah. Yeah, I understand it being a while.
It reminds me of that scene in Pirates of the Caribbean where Davy Jones is only allowed on land once every 10 years. And then he has his leg in a bucket of water to make sure that, he's still
touching the ocean.
Yeah, I think that was in the third movie. So does this mean we have to wait another 20 years for you to have social?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think we'll be doing this a little more often. It was nice. Like I said, it was nice to go without our kids. It's not like we actually went to bed any earlier. That's one thing I've learned now, with or without our robotics team there. We still don't get to bed before 11 o'clock. We did get to bed before midnight, which actually was a win, because I'm trying to remember a night on like any tournament that we got to bed before midnight. Yeah, I don't think that happens with a robotics team. But we at least got to bed by 11:30 Saturday night. So all is well, I think. It was fun. I would do it again. I enjoy volunteering. It's really nice when my team's not there, so I don't have any conflict of interest. I can be there for all the teams, participate in all the things. And I did get my 4-year volunteer pin, because is this my 4th year or my 5th year? I can't remember. I've been doing this for a while, since I've been mentoring teams. But I did get my first pin of recognitions of at least 4 years of volunteering. So there's that. It was fun.
Y'all being people persons and stuff in real life.
Well, the thing is, the fun part is it's not like normal people. It's geeky people, which is a heck of a lot more fun to go hang out with. Because we get to talk engineering, we get to talk code, we get to talk, all of the fun things that there is. My youngest son actually has decided that he wants to build a robot out of Go Build It parts, and we can use a Raspberry Pi to run those motors and stuff. And I was like, heck yeah, let's do it.
I guess I get enough interaction with my normal job that I am good with people after a while.
Yeah, you definitely get your fill of people, but you haven't gotten your fill of hardware, and it almost looks like you have once again bought another piece of hardware.
So, yeah.
What's the purpose of this piece?
I have no clue, to be totally blunt. I didn't swear, technically.
You didn't. It might be a content and anyway, because I don't know if we can even squeak that by.
I have no idea what this is actually used for, to be brutally honest. So I did my taxes and I had some cash come back. And usually every time I get a refund, quote unquote, I generically buy myself one thing. And that's kind of just like $200-$300 kind of thing. And that's just kind of what I buy. It could be video games. It could be, a bunch of different stuff. This was something I had been looking at for a while. This is the Chuwi MiniBook X. It is a 10.5 inch 2-in-1. So it's even smaller than like the Surface Go's and stuff. So all that jazz. As you can tell, typical Garuda, because, Linux guy. But the thing I liked about this was the price. 12 gigs of RAM, 512 gig SSD. and a 1920 by 1200 screen on a 10.5 inch screen. Pretty good as far as like contrast and touch and all that stuff. It was like 199, which isn't terrible. It's running on an Intel N100, so you're talking ultra low power, like that's below the U series for the processors and stuff. But the thing I liked about this, besides just the price, because I didn't buy this from Chewy directly, I bought this off eBay, but the price was just too good to ignore. USB-C. So actually, hey, Apple, I know you started learning things, but there is a headphone jack on this little thing. That doesn't require USB-C dongles and everything else. So as far as this, though, overall, note-taking, just kind of content consumption, probably get rid of some of my, I have like an old, what is it, Kindle Fire 8.9 HDX, which is like super old.
Okay, yeah.
But get rid of some of those because I do have some of that stuff. So that's kind of what this is. I've basically filled the drive already with a bunch of stuff from my external drives. Thank you, Nitro Share. There are certain applications I love. So was it worth it? I don't know. Like, I'll probably end up taking it when I go up to Maine because it's just something I can throw in the bag. Like, it's just kind of one of those systems. Like, if it breaks, it's like whatever to me. I have other systems that technically do that, but it's like the Surface Book. Okay, it's bigger, or like the Minis Forum. That's kind of an expensive one where, like, if I break the keyboard or something, that's $150 just for the keyboard.
Right.
So,
yeah.
This is just kind of probably just a bag system that I just chuck in and go. So that's kind of what I'm thinking.
You're not really doing any work on it, but for media consumption or whatever, yeah, that's kind of nice.
Yeah, so if I've been doing a little more on my like writing Steam reviews and stuff for games that I've beaten and that kind of stuff. So like if I write up something and I'm the weird one. I use Clicker Office. Actually, I don't use WPS or anything anymore because it integrates with KDE. So if I do any of that, I can just use that. Like, I don't need a lot from with it being low powered. I don't expect a lot. So that was my whole thing. But
yeah, that makes sense.
Well, pro tip for you now that if you're on Plasma 6.3, you should be able to use the KRDP package to remote desktop to another machine if you needed to just basically use that laptop as a streaming device from a more powerful computer.
Nice.
Cool. But that's not actually what I need. But
so it looks like you can
reference.
Get a pen to go with it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. This is meant as like a drawing canvas if you're on the typical Windows end of it. But there is actually specific fixes in the AUR anyway, because Arch. But they are available. They're in the show notes. They're on GitHub. They actually fix things like the keyboard disengaging when you actually flip it over. Sometimes it disables the mouse when it does that too. So you're not, hey, I'm typing in the process. Accelerometer works too. I just found that out apparently. So there's nice little things. So you can, as you're holding it like this and whatever, the screen flips auto on its own. So there's nice little things that the community has been doing around them, which is really cool that I also liked. So props to them for that. So yeah, that's all I really got for that. I have no idea what I'm going to do with it other than content consumption because
other than right now, Nate's not here to give you crap about the fact that you've spent more on hardware so far than he has.
Depends if we're personal. Yes, I'll totally. We've already had this discussion. Personal financially,
I think
yes.
What he has to buy for work doesn't count as an IT manager. He's I
don't know, because at this rate, I might be spending about an IT manager's worth of money on the amount of crap I keep buying. In fairness.
Most definitely.
While I'm buying more hardware yet again, so Nate can give me more crap about buying more hardware and running up a bill. Bill here, ironically, seems to be also running up his own bill by buying hardware and for other projects.
Yes, indeed. So, not for nothing, but I found an opportunity to upgrade my home lab. Not that there's never an opportunity to upgrade my home lab, but I happened to catch a sale on the Minis Forum MS01 workstation.
Nice.
Like Matt, I had a little bit of money I needed to unload, and with some assistance of my ever willing friends to watch my wallet get thinner and thinner, I decided to get a few of these machines to upgrade my home lab. Now, most of you know I'm always tinkering with my home lab. So why these? I can basically jack them up to 96 gigs of RAM. There's 3 NVMe slots, dual 10 gigabit SFP slots, dual 2.5 gig Ethernet ports in the back, and a PCIe card, which I was thinking might be great for a small GPU so that I can teach myself how to build a self-hosted AI. And while we've all been chatting here, Matt decided to take it upon himself to send me a link for a video card which would fit, because he wants my wallet to basically evaporate into thin air.
He's pretty good at that. Yeah.
He's very good at that. So while you and Nate play with your little laptops and toys, let me know when you're ready to play ball in the big leagues with some lab hardware.
See, yeah, no.
I would drop my mic, but then I don't want to know what that does to the edit of the show. So I'm not going to do that.
But I mean, I can cut it out. But yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Wendy, you can also just totally ignore Bill's video feed in the edit, and you can also ignore his audio feed in the edit too.
I could, but then I would have to ignore yours, and it would be just me, and that would be a horribly
and that would be the best show ever.
Maybe, but my presence is so great that the audience doesn't even need to see or hear me to feel what I bring here.
Yes, laying down the vibe, huh?
On top of the Minis Forum machines that I got, I've also been trying to learn about TrueNAS scale and ZFS. Now, I've been a Synology user forever, so why change? One of the things that really sticks me is when a company starts to make things just a little bit more proprietary. And yes, I'm looking at you, Synology, because you're now starting to demand that certain hard drives are compatible with your NAS. And we happen to be talking about it at work. And while we are a Synology dealer, we sell a lot of them. There's still the open source enthusiast in me that wants to know what else is out there. And recently, TrueNAS Scale moved from FreeBSD to Linux and is built on ZFS. You can add apps via Docker. And I thought this is a really neat way to kind of get the best of both worlds. And so I took an old QNAP NAS that I had sitting on my workbench. I installed TrueNAS Scale on it and set up a drive pool. It's been interesting to see how different companies view storage and how storage should be built and how you build in backups and redundancies and replication and disaster recovery. One of my colleagues at work happens to love ZFS and has touted its benefits for a long time, including S3 storage. So anybody that's ever interacted with Amazon Web Services has dealt with S3 storage, but it's basically nothing more than a standard for storing and transferring and manipulating files like any other file system. So I'm thinking my next build may actually be a TrueNAS Scale box. So if that does happen, I hope to be back on the show at some point to talk about it, and I would be happy to lay out all the specs in the show notes.
I've had really good luck with Synology so far. I know I've mentioned before that my router is a Synology router, and I've kind of been back and forth because I know that one is aging. and I would like to upgrade it soon. But I've been trying to decide, am I going to stick with another Synology router or go a different route? So I'm kind of curious what other things you see along those lines.
Send me a message after the recording, and
Okay.
I will be glad to give you my list of recommendations.
Awesome. That would be perfect.
I've also been trying to figure out what is the best way for me to balance my needs to use Windows at work with my love of using Linux at home. How can I kind of blend those together? Now, like any responsible business, we have security requirements because of the type of customer data that we deal with.
Right.
And that means that the bosses then have to deploy software on our workstations, which is basically Big Brother. And it's required. It is not something that they said, hey, we want to do this. This was, hey, we have to do this to be compliant with some of our customers.
Right.
Some of us in the company have kind of like a partially company-owned device, partially personal-owned device. Some of us have Macs, some of us have PCs, some of us have Linux systems. So how do we make the best of that? Well, in my explorations, I found out that trying to remote to a Windows system from Linux is not always as straightforward as you think, because next to me here at this station, I have three 27-inch monitors. And one thing that doesn't quite work out of the box is multi-monitor support, or so I thought. So I started exploring a little-known utility, or a well-known utility, depending on your experience in Linux, called XFreeRDP. And it is nothing more than a command line to initiate the remote desktop protocol connection to a Windows system. And after Google fooing and reading on GitHub, I found a nice script that lets me build what I want for parameters. And I tested it, and it works. So now I can bring my Linux laptop to work. I can remote desktop to my virtual machine that I host here at my house over Tailscale, and everything just magically works. I was so happy about this on Friday that on the way home, I did what I usually do. I joined the OpenSUSE bar. And for those of you that don't know what the OpenSUSE bar is, it is nothing more than a video chat of Linux users from all over the world having a good time. It is not specific to OpenSUSE. All are welcome, regardless of your age, experience, anything. And I put a link to the bar in the show notes. You're free to join at any time, and perhaps you might catch me there. So while I'm driving home and I drive safely, my phone is plugged in, and I'm using it hands-free, treats it like a phone call, I was explaining what I had done to some of my colleagues. One of them, and a big shout out to Prophetic in the community for this, decided that he was going to work on a project of his own where he took the RDP command that I made and turned it into an interactive shell script using a TUI system. So TUI, text user interface, basically presents a menu of options that you can use from a command line to basically do what I accomplished through my very simple and straightforward script. But the point of that is this is where open source wins. Open source wins when a community gathers together to solve a problem. And that is precisely what we've done. So big shout out to you, Prophetic. Thank you as always for your contributions. Couldn't do it without you. And I will put a link in the show notes to his GitHub repository to where you can download, fork, edit, modify the code completely. That is the whole point and power of open source.
Absolutely. I love that. I absolutely love that. So you're upgrading your system, you're keeping things going in a more convenient way for you overall using Linux. This is something that I look forward to future episodes where you get to jump on and we get updates of these things and how well they're working.
And Wendy, I know I owe you a Fedora configuration script.
Yes.
And the reason why I haven't given it to you is because it's broken. Once Fedora 41 came out, I tried to apply it to a new system. Things changed with DNF5. So I owe you
Gotcha.
a working version of said script, which I will put together for you and send you a link. I will
Awesome.
do that by providing that to you in a future show, and you can put that in the show notes. So any of our listeners or watchers that use Fedora, feel free to grab a copy of that script and try it out and let me know what you think.
That would be perfect because I don't think I actually have time until after World, so like mid-April, to actually go from Manjaro to Fedora. I'm done at this point for the most part with like weekend trips for robotics up until we have that time in Worlds. But my goal these days is keeping me pretty busy. So I don't know. After Worlds is probably the most likely time if that's going to happen. So I have some time. I can wait. It's all good. No rush. But I am curious.
Well, in the meanwhile, I understand that you've been trying to get your Orca slicer working a little bit better, and you've been trying to figure out how to keep your software a little bit more up to date with it. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was actually Sean, who is a listener of the show, who kind of like touched base with me in the first place about Orca Slicer being able to be a flat pack, who updated me on the fact that they have released another nightly build, which is their 2.3 version. I've lost my mouse, so I might be able to find it. 2.3 version of the flat pack. So they do still have an app image that looks like they have one for Ubuntu and one for not Ubuntu, if that's the way you prefer to go. And then they have the flat pack version. That's what I have been using most recently in order to do 3D printing projects, has been the Orca Slicer flat pack. And at the beginning of the year, we talked about the fact that universal packages aren't always my favorite. But in this case, I'm really, really liking Orca Slicer. I'm glad they have a more official one available, though Sean was playing with some availability of creating his own and making that work. Orca has kind of stepped up on that promise of being able to create a flat pack for users to use. So I'm using the flat pack version currently on Manjaro. I will again when it comes to using it on Fedora. And one of the things that I love about Orca Slicer is I now have a custom, not necessarily build, but a custom 3D printer file, because I don't have the stock Creality Ender 5 Plus. I've modified it. And so I can now export that config file. I can export all of the filaments that I've added over time and my tweak and changes to them, and just import them into the next version when it comes to when I finally get to upgrade the system. I haven't been printing as much lately, but that will change. And actually, while we're on kind of the note of printing, I would love some help here. So I've got my photo printer that's now out in the living room / craft room / other computer room. Yeah, there's tech everywhere in this house, but it's out there in that other room currently. And the thing is, it can print like 13 by 19, I think is the maximum sheet size. So in this case, we can print our own books, and like book staplers are super cheap. You can pick one up for like $20. So it'd be nice if, like, when the kids build their different books for competition. So we've got the FTC, of course, obviously going to Worlds. We have FLL that is moving on. Now it's looking like not California, but potentially Massachusetts or Florida. I know there's been some changes there. I'm not going to go into the backstory of why not California, but know that we are potentially going to Massachusetts or Florida come June. So fundraising is still a thing. I hope to actually have an active link to fundraising this time. Matt has committed to helping me with a live stream. I just need to nail him down for a date. But otherwise, it would be nice, instead of paying someone else a lot of money in order to print those books nicely, if I could do it from home. I know Scribus is an open source piece of software that potentially you can do that. The downside of that software is you can't really collaborate with that. So I need to be able to take whatever document we've got that's in PDF form and being able to then take it and have it lay it out in book form, magazine form, so that it's printing things in order so we can take those long sheets. It prints them the way they're supposed to be and just be able to staple the centers. And we've got a book. So this is one of those call outs to the communities that I've done before. If you know a piece of software that does that well, I'm currently on the lookout for that for multiple books for the robotics team. But the nice thing is printing less at the moment. It would be nice to upgrade to Fedora so I don't have any printing issues. I'm scanning a lot still at the moment, stuff that I have to turn in. But the nice thing about 2 of my printers, they have either USB or SD card access, so I can like scan directly to the card and then go from there. I don't have to deal with drivers or whatever. It just works for the most part. But yeah, if you got an idea there, let me know. I could use some help.
Let me see what I can dig out. I might know of a utility that can help you out with that. I'm going to ask around at work, and if I find it, I will message it to you.
That would be absolutely perfect. Because the thing is once I have something like that running, my kids are working on their own projects where that would be useful. And so it would be nice to allow them to use that software as well. Speaking of software, Matt, you actually have a media manager for us this week instead of a game. I'm tiny bit offended because you are the game guy and we don't have a game at all this week, but maybe a media manager would be all right.
So yeah, no games this week. So some reason my metadata got all sorts of funky on my TV shows. I don't know why. Cody, there might have been an update to Cody. Could have been one of the scrapers that updated. It could have been a lot of different things. This is why I generically tend to not like having my media boxes go online. So Tiny Media Manager basically takes everything in a drive that is on it, scans it. You can source all the various sources online, from IMDb to OpenMovie to just every source you can find. And it allows for like bulk editing of like TV shows, which is fantastic because I needed to do that because a lot of the like anime stuff that I watch has gotten all sorts of weird, like, oh, this is a special. And it's like, no, it's one of the normal episodes for like season 2. Why are you just not there? So just weird stuff like that. But this was open sourced until version 3. So this is where some people may or may not like this. It is a closed sourced application after version 3. I don't exactly remember what the license prior was. I didn't get that far. It is $12 on an annual subscription, essentially. It runs on Java, whatever. But what they do allow, because it upgrades by itself and all that stuff, which is great. You can install on as many machines as you want, which is also great. So this is one of those, it's like, it's a service that I can find value in if it allows me to simplify managing my ever-growing media collection of nonsense. Because this allowed me to fix, instead of me individually editing .nfo files with the correct metadata, or getting Cody to figure out where it's pulling from and stop doing dumb things and trying to use the virtual keyboard on Cody. This literally pulls in all that information and you can just edit everything in a bulk edit and call it good for seasons and everything else. You can download, like if you are using Cody, because that's what I'm using, you can get it so like it'll play movie trailers, and it'll download those into your individual folders. So like when you hover over, a tile for the season or something, it'll play the trailer because you can set it up. And so there's just different ways you can set it up and stuff with the information that it pulls down. It's $12 a year. Like, it's not super expensive. And the fact that it's not limited to just like per install as many computers as you want, I also am fine with that. They also still do take contribution. So people who do contribute back to it, or like, because it's open, sort of, kind of, they do have a GitHub lab. I'm trying to remember where they're actually at. I think it's GitHub.
GitLab, yeah. That's what I see on the website. Mm-hmm.
So anybody who contributes can get a perpetuity license, essentially. So like they do stuff. I know kind of closed nature of some things will kind of turn some people off, but it runs on Linux, Mac, Windows, and if you're a media consumption person, or you like to own your content, I'll put it that way, and the things that you buy in the digital age, this is like a necessity especially for offline storage and organization. And there's just not a lot of them that are out there that are good, because this takes care of a lot of it automates the scraping process of information to literally, hey, Control A selects everything, find all this information from these sources, and it goes and finds it. And then you can edit as you need to in one interface, and it's done. So basically it took what would have been a many-day project down to about 2 hours for me, which I was fine. I was fine with that.
Yeah. So, yeah, no kidding.
This will also pull in various things like thumbnails. It'll pull in show descriptions and season descriptions, and just it's a real nice application. So I think it's definitely something that I think should be highlighted in the fact that it's multi-platform and looked at is definitely a plus. Sometimes convenience does win. Like, that's just what it is.
I'm not giving up Da Vinci. So yeah.
Bingo. So that is my application. If you want a game,
we would never want a game. Yeah, what game do you got?
Thanks to your recommendation of Heroic Launcher, I have been able to enjoy some games that just wouldn't work prior in other launchers. I like it because I can select at the game level or at the software level the version of Proton that I'm going to use. And at first I forgot to take it off of Wine 10. And I'm like, why is this not working? This should just work. And then I went in and went, oh yeah, Proton hotfix. Let me select that instead. And poof, everything worked. So I am enjoying the old school Thief series, and I'm about halfway through Thief 2, the Metal Age at the moment.
So Bill, if you're a thief, if you enjoy Thief, my question is, does the 2014 game exist?
No.
It was.
We don't talk about
anybody who. That's the right answer.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I'll just take your word for it.
It was a continuation of the series that went in not the kind of direction the series was known for, and I'll put it that way.
Okay. So it's kind of the way my oldest daughter feels about some of the newer FNAF games. She's like, I'm out.
Yes. What I will say though is, if you own GOG and you do play Thief, the only reason to get that game, because it's usually like $4 or $2 or whatever, is it's got a heck of a good built-in benchmark. Like, if you want to tax
and that's something you've been working on, yeah.
Because I've been compiling a list of GOG specific games that actually have built-in benchmarks. So if you want to test the graphical system, there you go.
Heck yeah.
Thief 3 is still the best.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
I don't know any of these games. Are they like first-person shooter? What? Like?
They're first-person stealth games. So don't get caught killing people. the dumb guards that are in the game. Well, they're actually
Okay, so I would lose immediately. Okay, that's all I need to know. That's been cleared up.
Mom Tapper spilled meat all over the rug. Benny, you're drunk. If anybody breaks into this building, I'm going to stick them with my sword.
Wow.
The guards in the game are really funny because some of them are drunk. But Wendy, you might actually be okay with this because this is not a first-person shooter. This is as Matt said, a first-person stealth. So you actually really have to think about what you're doing, and you're not really on like a timed basis. There's not a crowd of people shooting at you. You have to learn how to use the shadows and climb over things. You use your mouse to learn how to pick locks.
Game, essentially.
Oh, okay. So that does sound like totally more up my alley. All right, I might have to check it out. Yeah.
It's essentially like a first-person puzzle game with some stealth elements of like avoid the enemy. But you can also not kill people through the entire game if you want to as well.
Just kind of depends on how you choose to play it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And you can save often. So if you know you're getting to a point in the game where you think you might die, you just save it right there. So I might have...
Okay.
And I think there's like 20 save slots that you can use.
Wow. So that eliminates some of my husband's frustrations with Borderlands games, because I know there for a while he was like playing the beginning of certain sections over and over and over again. Yeah.
Matt, for some reason, I concede Magneto not really being stealth and just more using his bow and arrow quite a bit.
Yeah. Magneto is not stealth at all in any sense of the word.
So for a more modern game reference for other people who are beyond the age that me and Bill obviously are, for time frame reference, it's the difference between doing a good guy run in Dishonored or Dishonored 2 versus not and doing the evil run. One, you are the good guy and you don't kill anybody the entire game. The other one, you get a really bad ending and you dictate where the game goes as far as the ending. And it ain't a good one.
Interesting.
For those that want the more modern game reference. Now it's your turn to toss in your 2 cents on today's topics. Hit the Discourse forums or drop us a line under this video or on the contact form by visiting tuxdigital.com/contact. If you'd like to hang out with us on our preferred social media, see the link at the bottom of the show description. You can find other great shows like Pseudo Show, Destination Linux, and Linux Salute, and more at tuxdigital.com. Show off your love for your favorite podcasts and shows by visiting the Tux Digital merch store. Grab yourself some awesome swag like the gamer-centric I Pause My Game to Be Here kind of every week, or every episode now. Or you can join hashtag Team Wendy with some sinister Wendy swag. She is evil. It is hashtag Team Evil Wendy.
Not evil.
Lies. As always, we thank you for joining us, and we'll be back next time with another awesome episode of Linux Out Loud. Until then, keep the banner friendly, the conversation somewhat on topic, and have fun doing it.